Well, with Mary, of course, we have our special guest, Mrs. Nicole Brathwaite, who is the General Secretary of the Barbados National Council of PTA, Parents and Teachers Association. We've invited her on the show to give us a little in depth about the association and encourage parents and teachers alike the importance of Parents Teachers Association. We want to also note that we heard, excuse me, um, the unfortunate passing of a very popular radio personality, and until, of course, we've got further confirmation that we want to express condolences to those individuals who are close to them. I know one or two persons whom I am awaiting word on those details to confirm that detail. Now, I know Mrs. Bradford in two respects. Like herself, I hold one hat in something she's going to be talking about. I'm the president of the primary PTA committee, and she has held that position as well, not only as a parent, but she's also there as a teacher. And I would like Mrs. Brackett, who afforded the opportunity, to give us a little bit about herself. So, Nicole, tell us a little bit about Nicole.
Okay, I'll tell you about Nicole. Nicole is I am a parent, I'm a teacher. I let me just go back from the beginning if you wanna get a little bit a short bio.
Yes.
Okay, I was born and raised in New Orleans. I attended the law school. Whoop. Um,
Mm-hmm. I know.
Graduated as head girl. Went on to university. Went into teaching, and I've been teaching for nearly 20 years now.
Wow.
In the area of early childhood, that's my specialty. That's my training. I have a master's in early childhood settings, teaching the early childhood settings, and so on. I have my requisite training from Earlston Teachers Training College, the diploma in education, as well as the educational leadership postgrad certificate. So I consider myself a neural sculptor or neural landscaper because I am in the business of helping to shape and form the minds of young people. And I consider it an honor and a blessing to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I am happy with the opportunities that I get to do make such a difference in the lives of young people in my country and along the way in the lives of their families as well.
Well, something that
Um,
you
Go
actually
ahead.
touched on is where you're from. Why
Mm-hmm.
I said that, because I've had some individuals on our show, and we commend them for the journey that they've taken from
Mm-hmm.
whatever community they've come from. And it shows to those who are watching when they sit with their children or family to see that it does not matter where you have come from, but is what you make of your journey as you go.
That's right.
So
That's
I've
right.
got a very close friend
Mm-hmm.
who, well, I had a manager who came from New Orleans. I think she went to
Mm-hmm.
foundation. And then I
Okay.
had my best friend who also came from New Orleans. I think she stayed up there for a very long time until her mom died.
Okay.
And she too went to Comamere.
Mm-hmm.
And she's doing, like yourself, wonderful. And I think that as a teacher, I don't want to go away from what you're saying, but I want
Mm-hmm.
people to realize that
Good can come out of Nazareth.
yes, you have a vision, you set your
Yes.
goals, and you know what you're about. That's the
That's
important thing we do on our show. We want people to realize it does not matter where you come from. You can make it once you set your goals.
that's
So
true.
continue on your teacher's
That's true.
your aspiration of how you became a teacher.
Funny enough, I actually started teaching in my final year at university, and I taught at a private school for 1 year, and it was a wonderful experience. I had a class four, my first experience, and it was a class four remedial class, and it was a lovely bunch of children with different varying abilities and challenges, and they taught me as much as I believe I taught them, you
Hmm.
know. And but that was just a 1 year, one term, not one term, 1 year contract at the time. And then after that, I went into to the public school,
Hmm.
and I have been there ever since. Like I said, in the line of early childhood specifically, I believe that, that's where you make the difference while they're in the formative years, while
Yes.
they are impressionable, and you can do so much with them to help mold and shape them at such a young age. So I have
Hmm.
stayed with it and have trained in it to keep myself at the cutting edge at all times. And along the way, a decade now so ago, I've become a mom. And that too has been an awesome journey. And I have learned quite a bit, on that journey as well. That has helped me to be a better teacher. And both roles support each other, because I can't. Once a teacher, your teacher at school, your teacher at home. Don't make
Oh,
your children
yeah.
complain. But it comes in good for them in the long run. But I love what I do. And from the time I got into teaching, I was mentored by some lovely people at the Wesley Hall Infant School. And one person, she's now deceased, Melissa King. I remember her distinctly as one of my mentors. And Melissa encouraged me to get involved in at the time, the Early Childhood Association in Barbados. And she also encouraged me to be a part um, of the PTA. And then there was persons like Miss Wendy Barrow, Mrs. Wendy Barrow. Everybody would know her as Mr. Barrow's wife.
Yes.
uh, but I had some good mentors there who encouraged me um, to get involved in the PTA. And at first I was apprehensive, but I found that, it was a good way to have to be a link between the home and the school. And that
Hmm.
really is where my passion grew, when I realized that, being a teacher and being a part of the PTA made significant bridges or links for parents to to communicate with school, and
Yes.
likewise the other way. And it has become part and parcel, I guess, of who I am becoming, because that's part of what I preach.
Yes.
Basically,
Yes. Yes.
homeschool partnerships, homeschool community
Hmm.
interaction. Yeah, that's what I about, and that's what I promote as I go along as well. My journey, as you put it.
Yes. It's
Yes.
definitely a journey because it's not
Mhm.
finished. Now,
No.
something you mentioned earlier, in sense of teaching within a private school environment and teaching in a public school environment,
Mhm.
is there disparity and difference between the two settings?
I will say no, because children are children, and they want the same thing. They want to know that you accept them for who they are. They want to know that they can feel comfortable around you, and that they can rely on you, that you are reliable, and that you are fair, and so on. And every child wants that, whether they're in private school or public school.
Mhm.
I just found that those kids, even though they were older kids, they were class four kids, they require the same love and attention, and interaction, relationship, as the younger ones do.
Beautiful. And I agree with you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you go into an area of private school because of it being an elite aspect, or a parent thinks sometimes that that child is not ready for that full quote unquote social environment. It may be a grounding for that child to go into public school. For others, they say it's a bit difficult and sort of covet the child. I'm
Mm.
speaking from a parent perspective
Mhm. Mhm.
in the sense that, but I've known individuals who had their child go to school in private, pass for good schools,
Mhm.
but said, nope, they're going back to private school because obviously of certain stigmas that are set on the public secondary schools, which is not always um, necessarily the case.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
um,
It's relative. It's relative for I believe for every person because everybody will have their specific reason, whether it be family ties, whether it be family legacy of coming through school, whether it be, different, socialization, different level of challenge, multiple reasons that person. So it's relative for persons for their choice of where they would have their children educated.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. Now, on the note of being introduced to PTAs,
Yes.
what is the importance of a PTA at a school?
Well, the PTA is a very, very important organization within the school. It's a link between the home and the school and the community. It's a bridge that needs to work together. One of my sayings, everywhere I go, even on my classroom doors, you will see, education is a team sport. The school can't do it alone, home can't do it alone, so it makes sense. They're natural. I usually say they're natural allies. So I don't know why there's this picture painted of why of schools and home at loggerheads, because really and truly, for this team to win, they both need to come together. They need to be bridges and not walls built. So
Mm-hmm,
I am a very strong advocate for those bridges to be built. The PTA gives the parents a voice. It gives them the opportunity and a forum where they can, share their thoughts, their ideas, their concerns, and collaborate with school officials and so on. Um, Very often, you would have heard persons complain, they only want money and this and that. PTA is so much more than fundraising, because PTAs can persons who function on PTAs can do so much in the schools through their volunteerism. They can come in, they can assist teachers where necessary. They can offer their skills to the school if they're painters, if they're carpenters, whatever resources they can bring to the table. And all of the research shows that those parents, children, always do much better in school than those children whose parents are not involved in PTA. So to my mind, it is a no-brainer. Get involved in PTA, because every piece of research that is related to this demonstrates that those children will definitely do better. They
mm-hmm.
have a sense of confidence. They get bragging rights. My mommy did this, my daddy did that, and my granny was a part of this, and they feel that sense of ownership and responsibility, and feel closer to their school identity, because their family is a part of it with them. So it is a very important entity. It helps guide the directions of where schools go, and it also, most importantly, help the school with its mission, achieving its mission, because the function of every PTA is also to help the school realize its mission and its vision, in the school, in the community, in the lives of those children who are part of the school, as well as every person who's a part of it. And the community benefits when there's a functioning PTA at schools, because the community gets the opportunity to invest in various ways, by partnering with the PTAs in the lives of the children, through sponsorship, through presence. I mean, presence as in physically turning up and doing something at the school, maybe even presents too, gifting things to the school, maybe it be sports equipment or whatever might be needed. It's a real opportunity where you can see home, school, community functioning together with the common goal of helping children to reach their fullest potential within that school setting. And it's vitally important. Without a PTA, schools can only do so much. Principals can only go so far. Teachers can only stretch themselves that far, but
That's
with
a
PTAs alongside helping and, offering resources and help and networking and so on, it makes a difference. It makes a vast difference, and it makes sense to be involved. It makes
mhm,
lots of sense. So
yeah.
get involved in the PTA.
Now we're asking parents, now parents who are dedicated and devoted to their child. Now
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to waylay and say who does and who doesn't. We see
Mm-hmm.
that in society all the time, and we know those are problems that every school encounters.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sitting in PTAs, you hear people say, "We only got parents here, we ain't got the teachers. So how is it a PTA?"
Mm-hmm. That's quite common. That is quite common.
Yes.
It is unfortunate, but there are PTAs that have plenty of teachers involved, and then there are others who may just see some occasionally or some not at all, unfortunately. But one of the things I would like to plug is we have to recognize that teachers are parents too, and very often after a long day of work and so on, sometimes they're also furthering their studies, and they have to go off to either Urdeston or some other place doing their studies and what's not. So sometimes in the scale of things, on the one hand, you have to consider that these might be the dynamics that might be at play why we don't see teachers present. But by the same token, there can be rotation of attendance, so that you don't have to see the same people all the time, but at least you have teachers in the school participating, showing up, and working alongside when there are projects and so on, so that there is that true sense of partnership and that true sense of we did it and we did it together, not so
Mhm.
much as, and there's this concept too, and this is from the parents end, where they feel as if, sometimes school is talking to them or at them and not with them. And it's a mindset that has to be changed, because that is one of the walls that blocks that great partnership that can take place. So I tend to push and advocate as well collaboration, bringing parents on board, and getting their opinions on policies that you want to do in the school, making them a part of the decision making process and so on, so that there's that greater sense of collaboration rather than, come on in at this point because we only need you here or whatever.
Right.
Because a person can feel taken for granted in any relationship. If somebody only want you when they want something, um you know
Yes.
it can be, you can feel as if they're patronizing you or the thing. But this level of collaboration really makes a whole level of difference, because you're seeing parents taking a greater response role in terms of the decision making and the rolling out of things and so on in schools. You see it. You mentioned the private schools and so on. I have to no, I don't have to, but I can highlight, because we make comparisons, huh? And
Yes.
very often we say, but look, the private schools just get through, and what happened to the public schools and what's not. You have persons there, and the difference is from what we have observed. You know, you have persons there who volunteer their time. They are not looking at the other person, watching the other person to see, oh well, them few people just do it all the time, so just it's all about them, it's them school, and but it's about your child. So whatever role you can play, whether it be small, whether it be large, you play your part, and you will see that all of that difference adds up, and it can have a great impact, really great impact. But when everybody sits down, watch everybody, and do nothing, then nothing gets done.
But
So we really want to have a situation where you have teachers rotating their attendance, and parents being present and teachable too, in the scenarios where teachers have the expertise that they can share, and there are situations where parents also have areas of expertise that they can also share, which is why collaboration is important. You can make whatever it is you're trying to achieve so much better when you do that. So it's important to have a PTA that is vitally functioning.
And some people would say something you brought up there between the private and public.
Mm-hmm.
In public, you tend to have more working parents, and the average persons who are in private have the wives that drive up with the vans, drop the kids off, and go home and have tea parties. So some people would say that they would have more time for
But,
PTAs
but
because
time
that's
is
a
not the only element.
socialization thing.
Yes, they might have time, and yes, they might have resources because some of them might own businesses and so on. But you're, on the other hand, whatever bit that you can do, like I said before, all of it adds up and it can still make a difference and have a great impact. What happens is that when you don't do anything, then nothing much gets done, and then you can, well, spend the time complaining or not. But the thing is that we need very often to, parents, they step up and then they draw back, and you have to steer the course. You have to steer the course. It's an example as well that you set for your children, that you get when you get involved in something, that you steer the course of it. You don't drop out. You don't quarrel and cuss out thing and what's not. You play your part vitally. You do whatever you can, and you make that difference. Your child is observing you. Your child is
Yes,
learning from you.
yes,
So that commitment is learned even through your participation and your participation in the PTA, and whatever little bit you can do. And we usually tell parents the PTA meetings are only about, in the school year you can only have about 8 or so meetings, and 8 meetings by probably 2 hours as 16 hours, less than 24 hours that you're really asked to either physically or now online be in a meeting. And for your child, to my mind, there's nothing much to sacrifice, because some people spend many hours on Pinterest and Facebook and Instagram, all of these things. And sometimes you're there and the time gets away. You don't even realize that the time has gone away, but you've given so much of your attention to that, when you could also do something for your child who will make a difference in not only the school and your child's life, but other children's lives as well, because other people's children are impacted by your work, by your contribution, by your volunteerism, by your donation, whatever it is that you do. And it doesn't even have to be just time. Like I said, time, resources, networking, whatever it is, that's your contribution. And your child is proud of whatever it is that you do.
and most of the time, it's just once a month.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just once a month.
That's
It's
it.
not
And then there are
three
different
times a month.
projects then that you work on, and those projects don't last forever, but again, you're teaching certain morals and values to your child through your participation as well. You're teaching them commitment. You're teaching them how to be a team player. You're
Great.
teaching
Yes.
them, all of these different values that they see through your participation, and they will emulate. They will come along and they would do the same things down the road, because you set that example for them.
Now, your role is a little higher now, not just parent teacher and my secretary,
Huh?
but you're also the general
Yes.
secretary of the Bnc Pta.
Yes.
And tell us, what is the role of the Bnc Pta?
Okay. Bnc Pta is a very fun, again, another very important body in terms of PTA representation. It's the umbrella body for the PTAs across the island. And you would have heard the minister and the chief education officer in recent times calling again for PTAs to be established and on the Bnc Pta to play a major role in helping to get those PTAs that are not functioning up and running.
Yes.
And that's what the Bnc Pta basically it's about. We're about supporting PTAs, assisting PTAs in getting off the ground, helping to provide any form of advice needed, resource persons, resource pools of ideas and so on to help PTAs to vitally function in their schools and have a grand impact wherever they are. So we don't necessarily invite ourselves into the domestic PTAs, but we will definitely come if we're called upon to assist any PTA in whatever area of challenge they might have in terms of internal issues or even in terms of just getting started up and training their officers to function. We assist in that as well. So
Yeah, I
whatever
was
the need
about to ask
is,
that.
we are able to help wherever is needed and necessary. And then in terms of making contributions then on a larger scale, when there are discussions or forums and so on that's of a national level, we participate in those as the body representing PTAs across the island. Yeah.
So therefore, the PTAs are very important as the go-between for the Ministry of Education.
Yes, it when I say well go between, yes, in that they look to the PTAs for to hear the voice of especially the parents too, because they also hear the voice of the teachers um through the unions and so on. But that's not to say that teachers are, like I said, teachers are not parents. So teachers are parents and they
Parents.
are involved in PTAs and so on. So they still
Mhm.
have vital roles to, and then there are liaisons between the school and the home as well. So
Mhm.
the parent teacher association is important for the ministry because it gives them a sense of what is the feelings of parents and teachers as they consider things together on
Mhm.
certain issues and so on. How can we use their opinions and what they have, their success stories and what they're doing and so on to help
Mhm.
further um, whatever policies or so on that they might be considering. So they want to hear from the parents, but they will go through the umbrella body so that they can be speaking to the general PTA, but through the main umbrella body. So as
Okay.
information is fed to us from domestic PTAs as to what are the challenges they might be facing, what success stories they are having, and so on, what issues are turning up for them. These are things that we are then able to speak to when we're called upon, whether by the ministry or the media or what's not, um, to address issues as they arise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to divert from the importance of the PTAs.
Hmm.
I want to touch on one thing
Hmm.
where there was an article that spoke about children getting back into school. Of course, I know the association would have had a lot of talk with the ministry, parents, and stuff like that um, about the COVID vaccination for children. Well, you're
Hmm.
at the primary level, and I
Hmm.
think the other association, BSTU, are also stating, quote unquote, that they're urging parents not to hesitate to have their children vaccinated, those that are 12 years and older.
Hmm.
Well, I know, you
Hmm.
know what
Hmm.
it's like as a parent teacher or teacher parent with teaching online
Hmm.
and the different stages because you're dealing with early childhood education with young
Hmm.
ones, but you also have a daughter who is in class 3, if I'm correct.
Yes. Yes.
And your experience as a teacher parent
Hmm.
slash parent teacher. on that
Well,
aspect? And
well,
then
as
I will ask about the vaccine.
okay, okay, as a teacher parent, it's a hustle. It's a hustle. You get up, you have to make sure that your child is set and ready to get into school, get into class. Her class starts earlier than mine, so I have to get her breakfast going. Anything that is needed to prep, that she needs to hand before class starts. I have to make sure that that's in place and so on. Then once she's settled, then I have to get myself in place, get breakfast and do all these things and get into to my class and do my teaching. And
Mm-hmm.
in between there, you're preparing snack, you're preparing lunch,
Mm-hmm.
you're checking in on, you might need to do some technical assistance to help them sort out. So it's a hustle, it's a challenge. um but as a teacher parent, um I know what it is from that angle, and I'm very empathetic towards parents because I know that is not an easy task. So I can empathize with, where persons are having challenges and so on, and I prefer to be flexible so that that parent doesn't have any anxiety or as little anxiety as possible, within the situation as we're online and so on, so that it can be as much as possible enjoyable for everyone involved
Mm-hmm.
and not stressful, in any way as much as possible. Yeah. So
I think you're doing a very good job,
thank you.
because the age group you're teaching right now, and
Yes.
you
Thank you.
understand the aspect that I'm sure you miss your face to face, because sometimes I may hear you say, "Oh dear, I wish I had so and so. I can't do it with you,"
Yeah.
and you understand the fact that the age group you have, their attention span is kind of short.
Yes. That's a
And
characteristic of those young children.
yes,
Short attention span.
and with your daughter who is now going to what a lot of parents would be calling semi-class 4, quote unquote,
Well, yeah,
combinations.
because that program is a 2-year program, so they start from class 3. Yeah. Hmm.
What has it been like for her? Has the work now become compact? Do you find the children having a little bit more challenge through the
Um,
teachers?
it's I think that all around everybody is just trying their best to get the info, get the material over to the children, and do it in such a way that it keeps them engaged and it challenges them at the same time. So I appreciate the fact that she's getting new challenges, and she's having opportunities to do lots of good work and so on
Mm-hmm.
now. Even in the online setting, that is also quite good because we don't have the physical setup where they will be
Yes,
socializing
yes.
and so on. So even doing group work, even though online, that is also a blessing. But the
Mm-hmm.
work, yes, the work is obviously at this stage a step up than what you may be accustomed to, but it calls for discipline and it calls for applying yourself. So yes, is a task. You have to buckle down on them to make sure that homework is being done and follow up on certain things and so on. But that's our role as parents. That's what we need to do. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And you think that with some scenarios where, we've been hearing horror stories, some kids don't have electricity, some kids don't have Wi-Fi, they don't have the equipment. Um, Within those circumstances, persons with that. So, what is the PTA doing? Because we know that some of the devices are provided by the Ministry of the Education,
Hmm.
but at the same time, what happens to those children who are limited?
Well, the first and foremost, we know that the ministry is doing their utmost to try and get as many devices into the children's hands as possible. Unfortunately, there are some instances where devices that would have been lent out before have either not been recovered, or when they were recovered, they were damaged and had to be retrofitted or whatever to in order for them to be distributed again. So that's
Mm-hmm.
part of the challenge. But PTAs, even like our own PTA, have in our way stepped up, and parents have made pledges, and making monetary, however little they can make, contributions towards getting, even if it's just one more tablet, that's one less child without access. So you see, it's making a difference, even if it's just in one life at a time. So that is one of the areas where PTAs can really make a difference. We see corporate Barbados from time to time popping up, also making such contributions. But it's also for those people who have the need to also share it, so that
Yeah.
it is known. Because sometimes, they might, for whatever reason, not say that, well, I'm having this challenge, or the light get cut off, or whatever have you. Then we have to be our brother's keeper, and wherever we can, if it means once we know what's happening, the parents can understand each other's struggle and can pull together and still help in whatever way they can to make sure that that particular family or child is not disadvantaged and can still attend school, can still eat.
Yeah.
It's not. So, but the thing is to actually be aware that there is the need in the first place.
Correct.
So that's an important thing.
And last but
Mm-hmm.
not least, in the regards to the comment, the statement made, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was Nation News, but I know it was sometime in August the 27th, where they spoke about getting back into school
Mm-hmm.
with the vaccination in place for some children.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you stated that it is the parents' right in terms of if they want their child to have it or not. The decision is
Mm-hmm.
theirs,
Yeah.
without the fear of being disadvantaged in the classroom. Now, a lot of parents, like yourself and myself, we're hearing everything. You've got parents debating, wait, so you mean to say my child can only go to school if they're vaccinated? And I think it was mentioned that, is it vaccine or immunization, is mandatory for entry into school. It's a bit of a double whammy for people to understand the importance of what's really happening. I
Yeah.
am not advocating for persons to go and get it, and I'm not advocating for persons not to get it.
Mm-hmm.
I still think individuals have the right to make their own decision. But
That's
at the
right.
end of the day, somebody's affected. So, how is that helping the children get back into school?
Well, as you know, as it has been said from all of the Ministry of Health and pediatricians and all those who have been speaking at it from their professional vantage, it's another layer of protection that is necessary, because especially since the Delta variant became a critical game changer in this whole coronavirus pandemic that we're facing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the vaccination provides that extra layer of protection, and it also minimizes the chances of being severely ill.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what you're aiming for. It's not a case where we understand now that is not that you are immune to the
Mm-hmm.
vaccine, because
Correct.
persons who have been vaccinated can
Mm-hmm.
um, contract the virus, but it gives you a better chance of overcoming it and not having to go into severe cases, unless you have other underlying conditions and so on that might actually put you at a disadvantage health wise.
Yeah.
So you want a situation where, as the government has outlined, where if you can have as many children as possible vaccinated in a school setting, along with staff and teaching staff and ancillary staff, then
Mm-hmm.
you have a safer space for persons to teach and to learn in. And you also have a situation where they're also saying that persons who are not vaccinated will not be excluded from classrooms, so they would still be allowed into the classrooms. They will not be in any way disadvantaged from attending school or what's not.
Right.
But the encouragement from all of the public health announcements and so on is to do, look at all of the information and make your choice based on your own um, conviction.
Cognizant. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And I have to commend your school because they were doing or have been doing a marvelous job
Mhm.
because of the reentry of school for last year
Mhm.
and of this year, because I know it was not an easy task, but records show that Bay Primary was one of the few schools that had the school every day.
Mhm.
And when you tell people that, they were shocked, because I think one of the factors too, although we didn't have many students in the class, and the classrooms are big, so that
Mhm.
would have accommodated for the students to go back in full
Right.
time. And I think the children miss their teachers, and the teachers miss the children.
That's true.
So I think, like yourself, most teachers would have pleaded once the protocols were set and put in place, and you had the COVID staff monitoring
Monitors,
the
the
students, the
COVID
monitors
monitors. Yes.
in place. Things worked beautifully at the school, and
Yeah,
the
no,
children
that's not to
still
say that
had.
there weren't challenges, because especially with the little ones,
Mhm,
it's a constant thing in terms of, because of their natural characteristic at that age,
mhm.
about wearing masks is foreign to them, and
Yes,
wearing it and keeping it on for periods of time that they're not, in no way accustomed to, and so on, is a challenge, because you spend a lot of time reminding them, how to do it correctly. Reminding them, checking to make sure that they have the requisite amount of mass. Sometimes they pop them and they have to, they might not have another one, so you have to
yes,
find some, so it has its challenges, but you do what you can to make sure that everybody is as safe and as protected as possible.
yes, and that is
Yeah.
so true.
Yeah.
And on the last note, noting that you are the general secretary, a teacher, a parent, and
Yes.
also a member of your PTA committee,
Hmm.
what's your advice on becoming part of a PTA?
Jump right in. um Jump in and play your part. um all of the benefits are there, not only for yourself, because you personally can grow, you can gain skills, you can gain friends, you can gain family, through participation in the PTA. Your child gets bragging rights for your contributions. Other people's families are impacted by the things that you do. There are many benefits, as I'm going to use the words of the Ministry of Health: the benefits outweigh the risk. And be a part, make your impact, however big, however small, and see that it can make the world of difference in that teaching learning environment. Sometimes you don't know even for how long
Yes,
it it can last, for years after you have made that one contribution, or those few years of contribution in participating in the PTA. So jump right in. Don't be afraid. We're here to help in Bnc Pta if you need assistance. Jump right in, support your child, support the school, and be a part of the PTA. Make your
yes,
school the best place to teach and to learn in Barbados. I dare you.
yes. But you don't have to dare me.
No, not you. I dare the audience out there.
The audience, the audience. Right.
Yes.
I agree with that. I agree
Yes.
with that. So I want to take this opportunity, Mrs. Brathwaite, to commend you and continue on the path and the journey that you are on.
Mm.
And also thank you from the bottom of my heart with all of the other parents and teachers
Yes.
for your continued contribution and of service to our children.
Thank you so much. I
If you've
appreciate
never heard it, you'll hear it again.
it. Mm.
Thank you very much. And you will be awarded a
Thank you.
star on our page.
I'm
we don't wait to
grateful
give
for
you
the
those when you
opportunity
die. We
to
give them
make my
now.
contribution in these ways. Yes.
So, folks, we want to thank Mrs. Brathwaite, the General Secretary of the Bnc Pta, for joining us today and giving us a little insight about herself and the importance of becoming part of a PTA of your school, be it primary or secondary. And I also note that her alma mater is the Lodge School,
The law school.
where Sir David Simmons went, and a lot more affluent individuals. Folks, remember, get your mask on, sanitize, social distance. Pick up the phone and call a friend or a family member. Let them know how much you love them and how much you care for them. Thank you for being with us. And you know, we always like to keep it real. Follow us on YouTube as well as on our Facebook page. Like, click on the subscription button, and follow us for our next show. Have a beautiful and safe week to all, and remember to be kind.